Hello. In the Crown of Aragon, 639 years ago, it was February 3rd, 1387. My name is Jonathan Seyfried. I'm a PhD candidate in history at the University of New Mexico, and this is the Historian's Notebook, a podcast about how history gets made. Season 1 is titled Multcora Companiona. We're looking at a document from each day of the first year of the reign of King Joan I of Aragon and Queen Violant de Bar. Let's begin today's document. Today's document is short and it's in Catalan, so one would think I've got this one solid. And to some extent, well, yeah. There's always some mystery, right? Because dissatisfaction is guaranteed. You can never know for sure what's going on because you're only getting the tip of the iceberg, even though there's so many documents in this archive, so many tips of icebergs. Well, let me tell you what I'm talking about. Here we've got a letter. It's very clear who the addressee is. It's from Violant and to Charles III, the King of Navarre. The folio that we're looking at today is packed with a bunch of short missives. The top of the folio is the continuation of what came before on 78R, and this particular letter is getting sent, the one that came before, is getting sent to a bunch of different recipients, and that's why what we have at the beginning of each of those three lines at the top, there's 4 lines, so 3 of the 4 is IT, with the macron abbreviating for the EM, ETEM, likewise. So it's going likewise to all these different people. Then we've got a short letter going to a particular marquesa, and that is from the 1st of February. And then the document that is our focus for today, to the King of Navarre from February 3rd, is the next text block. So it's the middle of the 3 text blocks on this page. Interestingly, below it, we have someone who's written into this register at a far later date than the original composition. You can see that in a different style of handwriting, different form of cursive, a different script, we have someone who's written the words Pro Bernardis del Franciano? I'm not quite sure what that says, actually, at the end there. But that cursive handwriting is of an obviously different style from the script on the rest of the page. And I would say that this is either someone from the 19th century or the 18th century, but it could be earlier. I'm not too studied up on my early modern to modern cursive scripts. So someone at a later time was looking through these and just decided to add a little helpful header to the top of the next letter down on the page, the one that's at the bottom of the page. So, there's these intrusions of later archivists, later historians, and it's not always clear when that intrusion was written, but we have it there in certainly a script that just cannot be contemporaneous to the script that we see here. No one in the Crown of Aragon was writing in cursive like that at this time. I'm pretty confident in asserting that. So we've got a bunch of stuff on the page. We've also got some like tape to repair some wormholes and tears. So just as a material object, this particular page has some interesting aspects to it. Let's get to the content of the letter itself. So this one I plugged in my transcription to ChatGPT and got some help. And as always, when I use AI, I copy out the entire transcript of my chat and post that as a PDF that you can click on the web page for today's episode. And what you'll see in there is that the chatbot had no hesitation translating a word that appears, it's the second to the last word on the first line, alguatzar, or alguatzir. This is certainly a holdover from the Islamic period of Iberia, when Muslims ruled Iberia all the way up until, well, I mean, it was really only in 1492, I think, when the Granada fell, and so there's Muslim rule on the Iberian Peninsula from around 700 to that late date, so 7 centuries. So there's these terms that you see in common usage in documents written in Catalan or Castilian or one of the other vernaculars that are clearly holdovers from Arabic. And the way you can recognize them is the way that they begin with AL and then maybe have a G or a Q, but it's that AL beginning that is such a common way to start words in Arabic. And so what we've got here is the name of some kind of category of official that was a term that had been used during the time of Muslim rule and has stuck around. Sometimes the term is used in the context of someone who is specifically an official for the Muslim community or the Jewish community within a particular municipality. And other times it's applied more generally. Yes, Shadow. You've probably heard Shadow mewing, and she has been contributing to today's work, and I am just going to leave her in the podcast so you can enjoy the lovely sonorous intrusions from Shadowcat here. Because I'm saying some good stuff and I don't want to have to re-record it, Shadow. All right. So, yes. Okay, we've heard enough from you. That's enough. All right. The alguatzir in this document seems to be just synonym to bailiff. Some kind of official that handles cases, like a chief bailiff maybe. I went to a really great resource for Catalan and medieval Catalan. It's an online dictionary that is a product of the Institut d'Estudis Catalans, and it's called the Diccionari Català Valencia Balear. So it's like the Oxford English Dictionary, where it will give you an example of what has been identified as an early or earliest usage of the word. And when I went to the entry for Algutzir, Algutzir, I was able to find on the site that the usage applied to it was actually a piece of writing by Pere the Ceremonious. Pere the Ceremonious, his name, his cognomen, is ceremonious because he really liked ceremony and organizational behavior, and I've already talked about how he reworked the chancery. He wrote this long document called the Ordinances, and in it he made up all kinds of rules and codification for what different officials are supposed to do. And I think he got like really hyper specific with like how to celebrate certain feast days. And he was really a control freak. He was a micromanager. And these ordinances, if you read these, you're just like, why? Why does the king need to be at this nitty-gritty level of rule making for all these little things? But Pere just loved that. And I think that paper is such a part of this story, that all of these little rules were able to be enforced and reiterated and communicated because there was just this abundance of paper in 14th century Crown of Aragon as another holdover from the time of Muslim rule, where paper-making technology had made it to the Iberian Peninsula way earlier than other parts of Europe, and there was this paper-making town, basically, Hativa, that just churned out a lot of paper for people to use all over the place in Iberia. And so basically, because he's got this medium that can communicate out all of his little rules, he uses it. And as I'm talking about this, I'm really alluding to something that I've been reading recently. I'll put it in the bibliography for this page. It's the book Nexus by Yuval Noah Harari. It's such a great read. It's just come out in the last, I think, year. And Harari makes these really interesting connections between the technology of a time and the definition of information. And so I'm just seeing that. I'm just seeing that connection in the Archive of the Crown of Aragon, in words like alguacil that have their earliest attestation in Pere the Ceremonious's long document of rules. And it's just, it inspires me so much to be able to work with this stuff and connect in with just this information technology from so long ago. Goodness gracious. I'm just having such a great time. Well, let's get back to this letter. What's it about? I just gave you just this gigantically broad context. What's happening in this letter, and it's so short because it's got a really simple message. Hey, Charles, buddy, I'm sending you this guy. His name is Guerau de Voulars, or Voulats. It's really hard to figure out whether that's an RS or a TS because his name is repeated in line 3 and it really looks like a T, but then in the first line it looks like an R. Anyway, this guy named Guerau, I'm sending him to you. And then there's this wonderful line about how you have to give him creença, you have to give him belief, así com fi nos lo dehiem, as if I was saying it myself. So whatever this guy says, it's like you can trust it as if I was saying it, which is, it's quite a statement. And by the way, let me just share another medieval Catalan glossary moment with you. I was curious about this dehiem, and that there's an I after the H, or that there's an H at all, because the root of this is the infinitive dir, D-I-R, and that has one of the longest entries in my short medieval Catalan glossary. And that's because a lot of people talk about what people say. And the infinitive dir is to say. And so there's a lot of variations, a lot of ways to spell out and conjugate the verb for to speak or to say. So here we have basically this chief bailiff person, job title Alguazir, being sent from Violant to the King of Navarre, her buddy Charles III, who she danced with so hard, and he's basically just going to give a message verbally. So remember how I said at the beginning of today's podcast that each document is the tip of its own iceberg? We don't know the information that is going to be transmitted from Violant to Charles through the person of Guerau. We don't know what the message is. The letter is basically vouching for the accuracy and truthfulness and fidelity of what Guerau is going to say. So, I mean, obviously, Violant trusts Guerau to be truthful to her message, but what this is indicating is that there's certain matters that are not going to be written about. So what kind of topic would necessitate a personal messenger to verbally transmit it versus just writing it down? I mean, they certainly don't have a problem writing down all kinds of stuff, right? But what is it that is, in this situation, creating the need for Guerau to make the journey? Is it because it's super sensitive? Is it because it's just long and Violant is like, I just don't want to have to bother writing this out? Is it because Guerau is just going there anyway and it's just like random updates and it's not sensitive at all, but he's heading up there to do other stuff, and so might as well just stop by and, give a nice sort of like singing telegram kind of experience. I'm pretty sure he was not a singing telegram. A talking telegram is more like it. Ooh, I like that phrase. I'm going to keep using that. So what I want to do is corroborate. I want to find other documents that are indicating that there's going to be a talking telegram, there's going to be a person sent with a verbal message, and what's going on around that time, and can I identify when that would be needed and desired, and topics that were okay to just write about and didn't necessitate having this kind of messenger, or whether it was just like a bonus. Maybe it wasn't even a need at all. Questions, 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 right? That's why we are here. And as we move forward, we accumulate more questions, and generally something might come into focus and we can maybe make some guesses. All right. That brings us to the end of today's episode. Thanks for listening to this latest installment of The Historian's Notebook, Season 1, Molt Cara Companiona. If you are leaving with more questions than you arrived with, I've done my job. Remember, the motto of The Historian's Notebook is dissatisfaction guaranteed. And speaking of dissatisfaction, how many podcast episodes has it been since we talked about Joanne and Violant and how they related to each other? We're not getting it very easily because they are together and they don't need to write to each other right now because they're both in Barcelona. So we have to go at it from a kind of oblique angle in order to try to infer some of what's going on here. It's very difficult in this particular stage of their story, but who knows what we'll see tomorrow. Maybe we'll be less dissatisfied, but there's always some dissatisfaction guaranteed. That's our motto. Visit the website to see an image of today's document and additional show notes, and listen again tomorrow to hear about the next day in the first year of the reign of King John. Oh, goodness. I'm a little loopy today. What's going on here? King Joan the First of Aragon and Queen Violante de Bar. In the meantime, take care.